Volks slips through our fingers once again. I am going to have to complete the final level of this game, all because Cutscene Raimi refused to use the boost feature and go shoot him in the head. So I'm in for a world of hurt. Not quite yet, though. First, we just have to shoot down this helicopter using anti-aircraft ordnance. I guess I'll have to be a little faster next time. Because... oh, never mind. Chopper's down. Similar animation when the chopper escapes, but there is a second. This one's not yet loaded. But it is pretty clever. Destroyed the anti-aircraft ordnance. So, we're gonna have to kill this one on foot. Which still is not very difficult. It should be difficult, because we're getting shot by a helicopter in a human body. These bullets should be just rendering our body completely unrecognizable. But instead, they do negligible damage. But of course, there will be more to this fight. Coming up very soon. What would this second chopper down? It is crashed into the remaining load of Spectral operatives, who are now on the loose, ready to wreak havoc. My health is very low. I could recover it with that health pack down there. But instead, I'm gonna hammer this button a bunch while he tries to push me in the fire. And then, I'm gonna jump off the edge of the helipad. To my demise. Because I hit a checkpoint after destroying the second helicopter. And when I reload it, I will have full health. Simple as that. It is by no means the fastest way to recover my health. But I did want to show off that you can fling yourself off the edge of the helipad, which is something these Spectral operatives will try to force you to do when they possess you. Now, while they're loose, we're gonna have to escape them. Just this one at the moment. Still almost got me in the fire. I did realize that we can hold down the Z button, and that will fire grenades at the fastest possible fire rate, without having to repeatedly press that Z button, which gets very tiring. It's also mildly tiring to just hold the button down, because it's in an awkward place on the controller, but still much easier to hold the thing rather than press it repeatedly as I was doing. Now, I came over to this corner because I'm going in this cage. The ghosts have no chance of getting us into the fire from inside this cage. It seems like the corner of the cage is slightly out of bounds, such that the ghosts can barely get to us. Like, he was right in my face and he couldn't figure out how to possess me. Also, sometimes the ghosts do not spawn in properly when you're this far back. And it completely breaks this phase of the fight. Which is good, because we're right at the point where multiple Spectral operatives at once will start to appear. Yeah, look at him, floating right in front of me, can't get me. I don't know why they made this section accessible to the player. Clearly it should not be. Clearly the gate should just be closed in this fenced-in area, so he could not get in. But no. The weird thing is, I found this by accident. A ghost got me while I was back in the corner, and I was struggling around, waving the control stick, just barely fighting against that ghost. And while I was doing so, I stumbled into... I stumbled through the doorway here, and behind this fence, and I got stuck. The ghost couldn't do a damn thing about it. And then I realized you could go even further back in this area and be completely immune to the ghosts. And we're at the point where groups of spec ops appear at the same time, which means they will combo you. Once one is shaken free of the possession of your body, the next one will immediately possess you. They are not prone to the same cooldown. They have separate cooldowns. And we now have 3 at a time. So they can almost infinite combo you by using the cooldown of one followed by the cooldown of the next, then the third one. If they decide to stack up that way, there's nothing you can do about it. So the only reason we had to step out of the gated area was to break the turret on the ship, because there was a ghost temporarily possessing that spot as well. And I have no qualms about cheesing that section. It's really, really difficult and unpleasant and physically painful, of course. And I did beat it legitimately one time, and that is one time too many for one lifetime. I did not mean to depossess there. I meant to reload. Now this is where Volks went. We're hot on his trail. Mere minutes behind his escape. And we've got a lot of ghosts to fight. This ghost just hops from body to body for no reason. Doesn't actually accomplish anything while he's possessing them. And he just heads out the door. Which leaves us free to check out this. We can inspect this section to find out that this way is blocked. Can't go this way. And I definitely gave that reading way more personality. Raimi would have just said, this way is blocked, can't go this way. I don't know why they put that text there. We've come up upon so many dead ends that have just had no text, because Raimi has no personality, and that's been fine. But this late in the game, they decided they needed flavor text for a thing that they had no inspiration to make flavor text for. It actually makes the game slightly worse to have that text in it. That guy's trying to throw me down a bottomless pit. Meanwhile, there is a rocket launcher guy up on top there. Might have got him. Not sure. Looks like he's down. Otherwise, I'd be in a lot of danger right now. So, I just gotta do more ghost resisting. Trying to save my soul as they combo me. Try to push me in a bottomless pit and is in the middle of a ruined room in this high-tech base. Because design aesthetics are boring throughout the game, but very strange. They never really explained why there's like stone head carvings in the wall and Christian churches inside the building. Never really comes to any sort of meaning. It's just things that exist thrown together. There is a slip portal down there, but that's only because if we jump in there as a ghost, it will not kill us. So we need to slip our way back up. Our first of several host collectibles, which will be the final batch in the game. Yeah, we've got pillars and stuff. Very strange design. They partially explained that it's because this was the residence of Aunt Giselle, which was modified to become a fancy secret lab because Aunt Giselle had shrines that were capable of summoning Satan within her home, which was necessary for the evil science they were doing. If we were curious, we could discover that those two guys up on the sledge got there by following an extra long spiral staircase. Good for them. Glad the game decided to explain that. Guards in this section, you may notice, firing at us before they can even see us, because at this point we're supposed to be well versed in using the boost before turning a corner. Otherwise, we'll just get shot immediately. Luckily they don't have grenades, because that would be half our health gone immediately. But yeah, psychic guards in this area. It's a good reason to use the boost at least, which they have failed to provide us thus far. It's an interesting mechanic. Oh hey, we've unlocked Anna and the Imp in multiplayer levels. We'll see what that means in a future video. But yeah, the boost, another underutilized mechanic. They could have done quite a bit with it. Sort of like a gravity gun thing in Half-Life, where it really changes up the entire nature of the game. But no. The intended use case even, fighting ghosts with the boost, doesn't work at all, because ghosts are immune to everything besides the grenades, which are rendered useless by the boost. So I feel like they did not think that through nearly enough. Not terribly surprising. My health is kinda low for the extended gauntlet I have to go through coming up here. First we gotta take out these two guys. Excellent. They both had rocket launchers. Once they separate, they will fire rocket launchers at you from separate points. And you will be in a great deal of danger. Doesn't make much sense if they had ghosts in them, though. Their basic human souls probably could have handled those rocket launchers just fine. We've seen other humans do so. But these ones had ghosts inside. Another guy in here somewhere. Behind me, maybe? Yep. Doesn't want me to get to that library. There's forbidden knowledge in here. In the form of host collectibles. 3 down. We haven't had host collectibles thrown at us this fast since the level where we didn't have any hosts for more than half of the level. So that's kind of strange. Maybe this final level is extremely short, and then there's just half an hour of credits to explain the video length? Or maybe not. Also in the ruined library, a second ghost collectible. So it does seem like we are going through a fairly short, playable section of the level. They did expect the helicopter section to take up more time, and of course to kill us much more often, because it is extremely difficult and physically excruciating. So one would make 1 or 2 attempts at it, then put the controller down for a couple hours, then try again. Unless they figured out how to get in that gated off area. If the enemy can use foreknowledge to attack us prematurely, I feel that I can do the same to them. It's only fair. I can also blow myself up. Non-lethally, though. I am going to have to play it pretty carefully, though. So we got a fair ways to go before the next health refill. And I'm not 100% remembering all the enemy locations. Luckily, they tend to get stuck on walls. Also, they are not the sort that we've been fighting in the last level, which required 2 full dead-on grenades before they went down. These are standard soldiers who die from a single grenade, or a reasonable number of bullets. Now up here, we've got this nice window. Pretty lighting effects, reflecting dust in the air. Inexplicably though, Raimi can squeeze through this window, and needs to acquire, somewhere around here, the... there it is. 4th host collectible, final one in the game. What's it get us? The Catacombs multiplayer level. Now, I'm kind of curious, does our character model fit in that window? Yes, he does. He is shockingly skinny, even though it seems to be about the width of our head. Now, rocket launcher guys who do not lead their shots. You got a ghost on us. Okay, but no enemies fighting us. And the ghost ran away. I am pretty sure he went over the bridge, which we cannot do. Once we set foot on the bridge, no turning back. Not for any good reason, just Raimi has set his sights on progress. Will not be dissuaded by the player. And the ghost just ran off past that invisible wall. So we don't have to worry about him. That is one ghost that gets to survive the events of this game. Hopefully we can do the same. So far so good, but still super low health. And now full health. I'm more confident than I was a second ago. Exposed gears in the wall. This is some Castlevania stuff. Like, this is the clock tower, apparently. Also a mildly Castlevania decor. But still, super bland level design. I miss the days of snow levels and lava levels. They're not realistic for a game as down-to-earth as Geist here, but they give you much-needed changes of scenery. This is a bit of a change of scenery. Gargantuan room. Obvious boss fight. I assume Volks is going to come charging in that door once we hit a load trigger or something. No, the set decor itself has come to life and decided to fight us. So, this is a million times more unrealistic and unexpected, and out of the tone of the game, than just throwing us in a lava level or ice level would have been. There have been no, like, inanimate objects coming to life to fight us anywhere else in this game. It's a thing they really could have set up to switch things up throughout the course of the game instead of just having us fight generic soldiers for hour after hour after hour. But no, all of a sudden, we're fighting dual golems out of nowhere in the final level. And the golem fight is just criminally underexplained. We can fire on it forever, and that health bar will not go down at all. But you'll notice that I've been firing upon the cracks, which, they seem decorative, but they are blowing open sections of the Golem's body, which still are not vulnerable. So it seems like you're still wasting your time. But you just keep at it for some reason, and assume you're doing progress, despite the game telling you in numerous different ways that you're not making progress. Use the boost for a little bit of free time where you don't have to strafe around the eye lasers of the other Golem. Also use the boost to get around this backside of the arm where there are additional vulnerable panels we gotta break. And we'll use the boost to get all the way around the very back of the Golem. Blast open this panel. Eventually. There it goes. And now the Golem goes into standby mode and is finally vulnerable. But only in the glowing spots. And we only did about a third of that health bar after all that breaking of rocks. And he was able to regenerate all of those rocks. You can do quite a bit more damage than I was able to do in that cycle. But having a boss fight, cycles are like 2 minutes between each vulnerable phase, is very, very unpleasant and unsatisfying. Have the developers ever played a video game before that they would think this would be fun? When the Golem's just slowly walking towards you, each step leaves behind this huge shockwave that does massive damage. Seemingly more damage than the developers intended. It seems to hit you multiple times, all at once, which is why it does so much damage. So don't get anywhere near a Golem. You won't get crushed, but you will get rumbled. And Raimi is full of nitroglycerin or something, and self-destructs when he gets rumbled. One last panel left. Round the back. And grenade phase. While we still have to strafe the attacks of the other Golem. Oh, so close. So I'm gonna try fighting this one. That hilarious fast stomping animation. I do love it quite a bit. How could you not? It's very sloppy and silly, but great. I don't know how intentionally silly pretty much anything in this game is. With how all over the place the tone is, you can never really tell what's a joke, what was supposed to be serious, what was just them doing their best and having no time to actually succeed at the intended effect they were going for. It all comes together to make a weirdly charming package. Uh-oh. The charge attack is very easy to dodge, but does tremendous damage if it does hit you. And if they started from far enough away, they can sometimes get to you. Oh, that's bad news. Use the boost to get out of there. mind the other golem behind me. And that should be the last panel, I think. Sometimes they will wait a while to go into the vulnerable phase, and sometimes they won't because they still have a tiny panel left on their foot. Okay. You do have to wait for me to go into standby. And immediately die because they share a health pool. Okay. So we didn't save a cycle, but we also didn't waste a cycle. I got 2 little damage on the first vulnerable phase, which is why we ended up having to do 4 cycles instead of 3. Once one golem is down, your job is much easier. All you have to do is stay away from the damn thing. You don't have to avoid eye lasers. Just gotta aim, hit the panels, eventually kill the golem with very little resistance, but sometimes they do a hilarious charge. So this is honestly a fairly well-designed boss fight, which should not be in the game because it's completely out of nowhere. This is not the sort of game that would have a golem boss fight, and yet it does. And like every boss fight, it's far too long. Maybe half as many panels would have been great. Ugh, caught me reloading. That buys him another cycle. Okay, it did not. We are through the golems. Would have been nice if that had taken a minute or 2 less. But like I said, good boss fight, good change of pace. They could have done a lot more to make it thematically consistent. I will take what I can get this far into Geist. And look at this, we got a big ol' Satan door. Oh, by the way, I meant to point out the pods that were being loaded into the helicopters at the beginning of the level. They contain the inert bodies, which had the spectral operatives, which were being moved through the body movers we saw in the previous level. So, some clever use of science to explain something in this game. Anyway, more boss fights.
Huh, impressive. One ghost against an entire army. I suppose I was foolish to think these humans could bring such a lofty plan to fruition, even after my alterations. It would have been glorious, really. The land burning, the seas boiling, and your sun blotted from the sky. Paradise! But do not think you've defeated me, human. This project said was simply the most convenient means to an end. There are many ways to end this world. But first, I need to bring an end to you.
So it sounds like Raimi canonically loses this fight, and the seas boil, and the world ends, courtesy of Satan. That's the reality I live in these days. That or Satan's plan was completely pointless. Everything you wanted to do was just gonna happen anyway. But we're gonna fight against cruel fate regardless. Volks is immune to grenades, which means we need to rely on our rifle again. Look at the damage we did. So, Volks himself, possessed by Satan, not very smart. All he will do is shift one position to another. He'll fire when he stops, leave himself vulnerable for a second. All you have to do is move beyond the pillar, and he'll shift again. Repeat, Keep your gun trained on him. Do what you gotta do. When he fires the rockets, you might be in trouble. With the machine gun, you got no real problem. Even if it does hit you, it'll do with just a little bit of damage. But once again, it's a boss that is technically vulnerable at all times, but functionally invulnerable when he's moving because he's so hard to hit. Which means very few opportunities to hit him. The Spectral Operatives are a weird addition because they are, in and of themselves, useless. But they are ultimately the one thing that makes this fight any challenge whatsoever. 'Cause they'll just walk you in front of danger like that. So you have to kill them immediately. And they'll show up at the first quarter of Volks' health bar. And obviously at the beginning of the fight. And then I think at the last quarter he will spawn 2 at once. We'll see. But first, we'll get rid of the thing. 1 down. And tedium ahoy. If it kills me again, I will just cut to much later in the fight. 'Cause this is a nightmare. The helicopter battle was a challenge of tapping buttons really fast and giving yourself carpal tunnel. This is a challenge of patience. I have extremely low patience in video games. Doing Let's Plays has improved my patience considerably when it comes to video games, but this is still trying. I can't imagine what an average player of this game would have felt after going through the Golem, who dragged things out. The Golem is actually kind of fun, just overlong. This one is not fun at all. The ghosts keep catching me while I'm reloading, which is gruesome. Fortunately, Volks didn't feel like hitting me with a rocket this time. But he might soon. Ugh. Ghost came from a million miles away. Get out of Volks' line of sight. Ghost in my line of sight. Blow him up. There's his scream. We're good for another few minutes of doing the same thing. I don't know if it actually is minutes at a time. It certainly feels like it. And this almost 100-year-old man can take a lot of bullets. Like, possessing someone doesn't improve their health meter. We've learned that through the numerous possessions we've performed throughout the game. So, Volks just is virtually bulletproof. Maybe that's how he's lived so long. Certainly makes him a good possession host. Satan lucked out with this guy. Of all the people to randomly cast their soul into hell to try and make a deal with the devil, had to be the guy who, even at 100 years old, could eat about 1,000 bullets. I mean, literally like 1,000. We reload after every 120, and he can take, I'm certain, more than 10 clips over the course of this battle. We have 1 health refill for the entire fight. And here come the rockets. Somehow didn't get me. Ghost is on my case still. Can't get him in my sights. go. Volks has changed his routine at this point. He will now circle around the room and stop occasionally to fire upon us. Which is functionally the same, but slightly less exploitable. And it also puts him in a slightly worse position for us to get a beat on him after each time he moves. And sometimes he will switch from turning clockwise to counterclockwise. Like so. Meaning it's slightly unpredictable, but still super easy, and a very bad strategic plan on the part of Volks/Satan. They're not a good team. Not very clever. Definitely seems like they could have done a lot more with this. Like maybe have him plug his cyber wheelchair into machines and have the machines attack us. I'm thinking of basically every Eggman boss fight. But Eggman boss fights are better than this. So steal from them. Lost track of him. There he is. And effectively, we are putting down a man who hasn't lived over 70 years of his life. It's hard to tell exactly when this game takes place. All we know is it's before the year 2017, because of that plaque in the beginning that said 1927 was almost 90 years ago. So that's the only thing that places this game in time. But Volks was a teenager in the 1920s. I think 1930 he would have been about 15. So, yeah. Roughly 100 years old. And at least 70 years of that time, he has not been in full control of his body. He's been becoming gradually more evil and under the sway of Satan that whole time. Which prompted him to start an evil arms manufacturing company that was actually a front for an evil science company that manufactured plagues and ripped people from their bodies and tried to take over the world. Which calls into question the developer's intention for the moral compass of the game. Because Volks himself has done nothing wrong. We saw ultimately Rourke was just having a bad day, and it's our fault that he's having a bad day. He was merely conscripted to do this job by Volks, who again, not in control of his faculties, so not his fault. So the only person who has truly been evil of their own volition throughout this entire game has been John Raimi, our player character. And the game doesn't seem to comment on that, but it does seem to know that that's a problem with John Raimi. Like, the act of possession and the way it traumatizes people and ruins lives, they've made us aware that it has done very bad things to people who are otherwise innocent. And it wants us to know that. It wants us to feel bad about it, I assume? Because how else could you feel? It's clearly very screwed up. And I can't say I know what they were going for there. No more spectral operatives. It's just us and Volks from here on out. Repeating the cycle. So I wanted to say for most of the game that they were intentionally, or rather unintentionally, trying to just implement interesting game mechanics, which happen to involve possession and mind control and things that are morally reprehensible, but are cool game mechanics. And if you're a game developer, you're trying to come up with neat ways to make the player get from point A to point B, all that really matters is the game mechanics. And that's as far as they thought. No real concern for the moral implications. Then they gave redemption arcs to both of the major villains. And suddenly, I'm not so sure. Suddenly it seems like they want us to think Raimi's bad. And yeah, they want us to just have that be the takeaway of the game. Have it be psychologically disturbing, the events of the game. I don't know, it's very interesting. Perhaps more interesting than the developers intended? It's a minimalist approach to whatever the hell they were going for. Maybe what's in the game isn't even what they were going for. There could be any amount of cut content in a game that's this sloppy and thrown together. Clearly there were struggles behind the scenes. Every game has struggles behind the scenes, regardless of budget. This game clearly had a fairly high budget, produced by Nintendo. But numerous issues cropped up. Very clearly, you can tell from the final product. Numerous telltale signs. So it's all very fascinating. I would love to hear what the developer's actual intent was, but we'll probably never know. We'll just be left to speculate. But there's slightly more plot once we finish off Volks here. Not much left of the guy. There he goes.
Please help me.
There's the one guy beside Raimi who's done evil things of their own volition. Satan. We have entered Alexander Volks' soul to battle the evil entity possessing it. Even though Volks' body is dead, we do have to save his soul from hell, I guess. And rid the world of Satan's influence, so this never happens again, maybe? The controls have changed completely. We are in a fixed position away from Satan here. He will fire at us from behind his shield. He will actually fire parts of his shield at us. And the control stick moves us up, down, left and right, instead of forward, backwards, left and right. Which is utterly mind-bending the first time you set foot in this section. The entire game you've been going forward by pressing up. Suddenly it actually controls up and down. I had a real hard time getting used to this. Clearly I'm still having a bit of a hard time getting used to it, because I have not landed a hit on this boss yet. Obviously you have to find the cracks in the armor. Also, when he throws the armor at you, that leaves him vulnerable in that spot for a little while. One thing you can't really see, you can't see if I turn to it, these blue wavies all around us, and the yellow orbs. They have collision, and they are pushing us all up and down, while I am trying to push us up and down. to get a clear shot on this gigantic body in front of us, which is mostly invulnerable. It's also trying to push us through the floor. Once we go underneath the floor, we will also take damage. Our health doesn't gradually drain over time, which is normally the case when we are a ghost. Oh hey, we broke through. That's right, the first phase is another phase where you don't actually do damage, you're just opening up the phase where you can do damage. Much like the Golems. So now, we hit the core of Satan. Deal a quarter of his health bar, and repeat the process. But slightly more difficult this time. As you can see, the rings do a lot of damage, and we have max health, as much spiritual energy as we possibly could, because we have every ghost collectible that is in the game. I have done this boss fight with much fewer of the ghost collectibles actually acquired, and it's not actually much harder. You just can't ever get hit, because it will do like more than a quarter of your health per hit. So you gotta dodge very carefully and take fewer opportunities to directly attack Satan. Also, when you hold the right trigger to fire, it only auto-fires for a couple of shots, and then you have to hold it again, which is bad for player accessibility. It is needlessly painful. Your hands are probably very tired after all the button tapping you did fighting ghosts during the other boss fights. Last thing you want to do is hammer the fairly difficult to pull down right trigger of a GameCube controller. Like, it's to the point where my wrist actually hurts. And like, I have pins in my elbow, and I can actually feel the tendons being dragged tighter against the pins, because it has happened so many times that I've had to pull those tendons. Like, this is a physically painful game to play, in a way that it ought not be, and was avoidable. Coming down to low health, but Satan's coming down to no health. We just gotta avoid these shots, and this will be the final Andros phase of this fight. Then perhaps there will be an escape sequence. Oh, I'm a millimeter from death. Can't believe I didn't hit his weak spot yet. Can't believe that didn't hit me. And he regenerated. So I don't stand a chance. I did say I've done this practically hitless, but it's hard. It's real hard. My arms are tired. Something's pushing me under the ground, trying to finish me off. Yeah, there we go. But we haven't seen this before. What it looks like to die as a ghost. Mildly blinding. At least we're past the incredibly irritating Volks boss fight. Don't have to do that again. Ever again, as long as I live. And this Satan boss fight can be done much faster than what I was showing off there. I was screwing around a little bit to show things off. Hopefully we can get this done in an efficient manner. But this is a very rudimentary boss. The first boss of Metroid Prime was this. Like the tutorial boss of Metroid Prime, before you even lose your power-ups, is what they have for the big baddie of the entire game. the one person as bad as our player character. Still, it's a good change of pace for the game. Like I said about the Golems. Decent amount of creativity here in the long series of bosses that wrap things up. I don't like to use the C-stick to aim here. I prefer to just move my physical body. But with the blue strands moving me around, I do have to aim a little bit. At the cost of taking a hit from the rocks that wireframe is throwing at me. In the second phase, Satan throws 2 consecutive rings at us at a time, which is super easy to dodge. He didn't really think this through. The only risk is if you happen to stumble upon something with collision behind you that you can't see. Which is honestly kind of unfair, the way the terrain physically moves us around. But still manageable. And manage it we must. Come on, you big dinosaur. Okay, vulnerable once again. Clearly, the heart can regenerate the full body before we get the full damage in. Don't want that to happen again. But we're doing quite well. Boy, never mind. We're doing horribly. And we're right where we left off last time. But jeez. Combo to death. The power of Geist compels you. Demon, be driven.
Grab hold! Told you I'd be back. Had a little trouble with that last helicopter, but as you can see, I'm tough to kill. I hope you didn't leave anything back there.
That ending was amazing. So much better than I thought the video game Geist was capable of after these 8 or so hours playing through it. But it truly impressed me. Obviously, Bryson, still alive, who didn't see that coming. But then Anna Richardson shows up, and that was a pleasant surprise. That put a smile on my face. She saves you, helps you get on the helicopter, and then Phantom's there, the best character in the game. So very satisfying. All the best characters collected in one place, inexplicably saving your miserable character. But it's great to see them hooked up together, saving the day. Oh, check that out on screen right now. Forrest Crump was one of the character modelists and animation guys who worked on the game. Not a Forrest Gump joke that they just crammed into the game, as I was certain when I saw that name. That is actually very, very depressing. That guy would have been growing up in the mid to late 90s as a teenager with the name Forrest Crump. If he made this entire game out of spite just to torture people, I couldn't blame him at all. Hopefully he's doing well today. And yeah, perfect ending. The ending could not have possibly been any better. And they didn't make us go through a escape sequence, which I appreciate. They set it up and then didn't go through with it, mercifully. Such a savvy ending on the part of the developers, which again makes me question how much they understood what they were throwing at the player in terms of cerebral implications about what they were doing and the semiotics of what they were saying throughout the game. Because clearly they understood that they made some good characters. So they could have made Raimi a good character, and they could have made the villains consistently bad characters. So I assume more of this game is intentional than I originally believed. At this point, I have to believe, basically, when in doubt, it was intentional. The developers meant for it to come across that way. And overall, I love myself some bad games, some janky games, and especially some games from the PS2 GameCube era. This one is slightly too bad for me to actually say that I love it, but I do like it a whole lot, and I really, really, really enjoyed talking about it. It's been very, very interesting to talk about. Commentary has been effortless throughout this entire LP. Throughout all these extremely padded levels, I've still had tons and tons to talk about. Because it's so weird, so inexplicable, so sort of unique, even though everything in this game has been done better in other games. Tons of wasted potential. They really could have done much more with all of the mechanics that they set up in the game. But what they gave us, the final product, very interesting. I'm glad I got to talk about it. It's a shame that the LP kind of flopped. This has been a very unpopular LP. But occasionally I get to do one just for myself, and a handful of people come along with me, and I'm glad they do. It's been a privilege and an honor. I'm lucky and glad that you joined me. There will be one more bonus video where we show off all the multiplayer unlockables we got for the host collectibles. Hope to see you there, and thanks for watching, Geist.